Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is an eyeshadow palette declutter. I wasn't too sure whether to do one of these or not, but when I had a look in my collection I realised that I probably did have a good few palettes I could get rid of, and also the makeup bag that I store my eyeshadow palettes in won't zip shut anymore, so that is a sign that I do need to get rid of a few of them. So as you can see in front of you, I have amassed a larger collection than I had last time. I purchased quite a few eyeshadows over the course of 2018. I actually did a video about all the palettes I bought in 2018. I did a ranking of them if you wanted to check that one out. Also be sure to check out the giveaway that is currently ongoing on my channel. This is probably going to be a long video, so I will get straight into it. Just reaching directly in front of me, first one we have here is the Urban Decay Naked Heat palette. This is probably one of the staple eyeshadow palettes in my collection. It's one that I reach for an awful lot over the autumn and winter months, and I think due to the amount of palettes that I now own, it hasn't had as much love over the recent autumn and winter periods, but it is definitely still a palette that I love and one that I can easily create a multitude of looks from. I do really enjoy reaching for this one, so I'm definitely keeping this one. Above that we have the BH Cosmetics Weekend Festival palette. This is one I bought at the tail end of 2018, and if I'm honest, I've hardly reached for it at all since I purchased it. I was drawn in by the sort of beautiful array of shades in here and the fact that it was on sale, but when it came down to it, it's not an everyday eyeshadow palette, and recently that's the kind of looks I've been going for. I haven't been going for the brighter shades, but perhaps once summer rolls around I will be braver and dip into some of these shades because they are some gorgeous shades, and I really like the quality of the BH Cosmetics palettes, and I just find that they are really affordable, so I'm definitely keeping this one. Next we have the Too Faced chocolate bar. This is a kind of thorn in my side type palette. I don't enjoy using it, I hardly ever reach for it, but I just can't seem to part with it. It was the second ever high-end eyeshadow palette that I purchased after the original Naked palette up there. Formulas are okay, the shades don't inspire me very much, and I just find that after a while they kind of muddy together and I just struggle to get looks. But I am stupidly going to keep hold of it even though I don't enjoy it, because I'm going on holiday in a couple of months, and this is the palette that I take on holiday with me, because a lot of these other palettes here, even though I love them, if I ever took them on holiday and that got broken, I would be devastated. Whereas this one, if this got broken, I wouldn't be heartbroken or wouldn't even be really that bothered. So it's got enough of a sort of shade range that I can create a few different looks from it. But this is just the one I say I travel with, because it is also, with it being in the tin, it is a bit more hard wearing than a lot of my other palettes. But again, if it broke, I wouldn't be heartbroken. So I'm keeping it solely to take on holiday with me, which I know is a bad excuse, but other than that, it probably would be decluttered. Then we have the ELF Opposite Attract palette. This is one that I'd had my eye on for some time, but it kept going in and out of stock and I couldn't seem to catch it in stock. I eventually got my hands on it. Kind of wish I hadn't. I don't know, it just doesn't work for me like I thought it would. I did really love the idea that it was both warm and cool toned, but I just don't find much inspiration when I look at this. You've also got a couple of shades that are very similar, actually, when they are on the eyes as well. Like these kind of grey, light brown shades don't look much different when they are on the eyes. So I was rather disappointed with this palette. It did only cost £15, which isn't bad for an eyeshadow palette. It is obviously a bit pricey for ELF. I do kind of regret purchasing this. I kind of wish I'd have held out until they brought out that new Classics one, I think it's called, because looking at that, I think I would have rather got more use out of that. That is an everyday kind of palette, whereas the colours and the shades in this are quite dark and it's hard to create a natural look. You've only kind of got these three shades here, but again, they don't look much different on the eye. So I think, even though I've not had this for that long, I think I am actually going to declutter this one. Then we have a few singles here, just in a Makeup Forever magnetic case. This is a Colourpop single in the shade Team Captain. It's quite a nice khaki green, but it does require a lot of building. This is a Makeup Geek in the shade Ritzy, and this is another Makeup Geek in the shade Sorcery. These are both really nice shades. This is kind of like an antique-y, goldy green shade, and this is a dark grey kind of duochrome shade. But these two are shades that I really enjoy using. I just find because of the setup, I don't reach for it an awful lot because I do like to just reach for one palette and create a look. Every so often I will remember and dig out and use these as like maybe a halo eye or something like that. I'm going to keep hold of them, but I do need to definitely reach for them more. Next we have a Wet n Wild palette, and this is the Comfort Zone. This is in the old formula. I do have a palette over here which is in the newer formula. I know they're completely different colour tones and things, but I do prefer the formula in this one. Really nice duochrome at the bottom here. This is probably my favourite shade in the palette, and is quite similar actually to the Makeup Geek one that I've just shown you, but it's slightly more duochrome than the Makeup Geek one is. Really like this eyeshadow palette. Do need to reach for it a lot more though, but it is a nice palette, so definitely keeping that one. Then we have this Technic Colour Max palette. This is a baked eyeshadow palette, and I believe I got this in a subscription box. I could even open it. I thought it looked quite promising, nice array of shades, another kind of duochrome shade here, and I do really like duochromes. It kind of fell a bit flat. The colours aren't very pigmented at all. They are quite patchy. I have only used it once or twice, but I didn't enjoy using it the couple of times that I did. It doesn't even look like I've barely touched it at all. So I am going to declutter this, but what I'm going to do is I've got a basket on the go of items that I've either just swatched or used once that I might potentially do a future giveaway with. If anyone would be interested in winning swatched makeup, then I might do a giveaway of a few different items. We then have the Tarte Tartelette Tease palette, and this is one of my favourite little go-to everyday palettes. I probably make good use of most of the shades in here. As you can see, I probably reach for that one the most. Really nice, easy to use palette, and we'll definitely be keeping that. We then have a liquid eyeshadow here, and this is from Heng Fang. I think I got this one online. I've only used it a couple of times, but the glitter fallout on it is pretty bad, and after a little while you do end up with it all over your face. It is a shame because it is a really nice shade, but I'm going to declutter this one. And then up here we have this single shadow, and this is by, it's either 3INA or Mina. This is a gorgeous teal shade. I was so impressed by the pan size on this, but the actual eyeshadow itself isn't the best. It's not the most pigmented, again, patchy, and doesn't blend the greatest. I also don't reach for it an awful lot because I do tend to reach for palettes rather than singles, so I'm going to get rid of this. Down the bottom here we have the Colourpop You Had Me at Hello, and this is probably one of my most reach for palettes when I'm looking for a simple everyday look, which, as I say, at the moment is kind of the main things I'm going for. This has a nice array of neutral pinks, mauves and purples in it. I especially love this gold here all over the lids, like a bronzy gold colour, but really nice quality, and definitely want to purchase more of these 12 pan palettes from Colourpop because I do really enjoy this one. Definitely keeping that one. We then have a trio from Wet n Wild, and this is the Walking on Eggshells trio. This used to be my go-to throw in my handbag if I needed to go out after work kind of thing. And to be honest, I probably would still use it for that purpose. I either use that or the Tartelette Tease for that. I don't have much use for it as of late, but it is a really nice little palette to, say, use on the go. And it has a few nice shades in it. They are really nice quality, and I like that it comes with the two different styles of brushes in it. So definitely keeping that one. Then got a couple more singles here. This is from the brand Kiko Milano. I'm actually not going to attempt to open it because that's how I did that dent in it last time. This is one of their Smart eyeshadow singles. It is a really nice pink colour which has kind of gold flecks to it. Not bad quality, it does go on the lid quite nicely provided you apply it with your finger. If you do use a brush, it's not the best. Overall it's not too bad, but again, I just don't reach for singles, and I haven't reached for it since I stuck my finger in it, so I'm going to get rid of this as well. This is a Nude by Nature. It is a kind of peachy coppery toned shadow. This is in the shade Coral. I've only used this a few times. I was quite underwhelmed by it. yet again, don't reach for singles very often, so I'm going to get rid of this one. Then we have, I think this is probably one of my latest purchases. This is from the brand Makeup Revolution. I just absolutely love the packaging of these. It's very Polly Pocket-esque. I also love that it has shades on both sides. Yes, okay, it doesn't have a mirror, but it's not exactly something I'm likely to apply on the go. It is something I'm going to apply at home. I've only dipped into a couple of shades in this one and this one down here, and to be honest, the quality is not too bad. I've had pretty good experiences with Makeup Revolution eyeshadow palettes, so I would definitely look to purchase more in the future if I ever need them. But yeah, I really like this and I'm glad I purchased it. I think I only ended up paying £6 each for these two, but really enjoy the shade range in it and looking forward to using it more. I'll just go to this one next. So this is obviously the shell shaped one. I do probably prefer the shape of this one to the heart because this does remind me most of a Polly Pocket I did have when I was younger, and I had a mermaid Polly Pocket to go with it, which I used to love. So another one, two sides, and this is kind of blues and greens shades. Again, used a couple of shades, not very much, had a little go of it, and I do really like it. To be honest, I think the quality of the pink one is ever so slightly better, but there's not much in it, to be honest. They are both pretty good standards. We then have another Tarte mini, and this is the Pro To Go, and this is another £6 palette. I probably don't reach for this one as much as the Tease one, but I do really like the shades in this as well. These metallics on the end here are really nice and really good quality and go on the eye really nicely. The shades blend really well. Only a few Tarte eyeshadow palettes that I've tried, but again, I've never had any issues with their formula either, so I will definitely be keeping this one. Then we have this ELF Mad for Matte palette, and this, as the name would suggest, is all matte. This is the Holy Smokes one, so it has a few neutrals at the front here, blue and green colour here, and then a couple of greys at the end. I didn't mind the quality of this. They blend pretty nicely. I used to tend to go for the same shades. I used to always use this terracotta orange one with one of these two. Reach for it an awful while, and if I'm honest, I haven't really missed reaching for it. I don't tend to do an all matte look very often. I do tend to put some sort of shimmer or metallic over my lid. So if I'm honest, I don't think I'd miss it if it wasn't in my collection anymore, so I'm going to get rid of this one as well. Then we have a Huda Beauty palette, and this is the Amethyst Obsessions. This is another one that I bought towards the tail end of last year, and I absolutely love it. I didn't think I would get as much use out of an all purple toned eyeshadow palette as I did. I nearly purchased the green one instead of this, and I'm so glad I purchased this one instead. It has gorgeous shades in it. This purple one in the middle here is probably my favourite shade, and I really like the mattes in here as well. This one is also really nice. Well, to be honest, all the shades in here are nice. My only issue is this one at the top here is ever so slightly chunky, so you do get a bit of fallout from it. You do get a bit of fallout from this one as well, to be honest, but overall really nice shadows, and would consider buying another one of the Obsessions palette in the future. So definitely keeping this one. Then here is a couple of glitter pots, and these are from Tanya Bear Cosmetics. I think I got these in an advent calendar last year. I haven't even opened them. I don't intend to use them. As they're not opened, I'm probably just going to stick them in a pot to throw in with a future giveaway. Another couple of singles. This is a Colourpop Super Shock Shadow in the shade Sequin. This is a really nice shade, but I just wasn't overly keen on the formula of it. It's a really wet feeling formula, so I did think it would stick to my lid a bit better than it did, but it took quite a bit of blending in my opinion, and I did find that I got quite a bit of fallout from it, and it also did transfer to the rest of my lid throughout the course of the day. I think I do have slightly hooded lids, and I did find that I would have glitter going up towards my eyebrows by the end of the day. So it makes me not want to reach for this. Again, it's a single, so I don't overly reach for singles, so I think I'm going to pass this one on as well. This is another one with a similar formula, and this is Phase Zero Gold Roses Metal Foil eyeshadow. This is an even wetter formula than the Colourpop one, and I do find like this does go onto your lid a little bit nicer than that. but it doesn't dry down. It does stay a kind of wet consistency all day, which again leads to kind of transfer onto the upper part of my lid where I didn't apply it to. I just don't think I'm going to reach for it. I do have these kind of shades no doubt in palettes elsewhere. It was just whether I preferred the kind of wet formula over a normal foiled shadow, but I definitely didn't, so I'm going to get rid of this one as well. And then we have the Tarte Make Believe in Yourself eyeshadow palette, and this is one of the palettes that I reach for when I am looking for that foiled look. So to replace that one I've just got rid of, I'd probably use either this shade up here or this shade here to create a kind of still coppery foiled look on my lid. I don't reach for this one as much as I wish I did, because I do absolutely love the formula of this. The highlight in the middle isn't very good as a face highlighter, but it's not too bad on the eyes, and this matte nude shade over here isn't the best, but the foils apply beautifully. They stay in place all day and they just look stunning. I probably only reach this palette when I'm kind of looking for a pop of a inner corner highlight, but I definitely do need to pull it out more because I love it, so I'm definitely keeping hold of this. Then we have the Urban Decay Born to Run palette, and this is yet another one that was purchased at the tail end of 2018. I kind of went all out at the end of the year. This is one that was in my everyday makeup drawer for February, so I have given it a good test, and I've got to say it's not my favourite eyeshadow palette. I do like the array of shades that it has got in it. You can create a multitude of looks in it, but I just don't find myself overly inspired when I open it. I do have to sort of stare at it a little while to come up with a look. There are a lot of really nice shades in here. These three shades at the top here are probably my most reach for. This is a really nice shade to stick in my crease or just all over my lid as a base, and these two are like a shimmer gold one, and then this is a kind of peachy shimmer with pink flecks to it, so they're both really nice shades. The mattes do blend really nicely. The formula's not too bad. It does just take a little bit of work, but I think that's because they are so pigmented. Overall, it's an okay palette. It's probably just one that I didn't really need in my collection. I was just tempted by it being on sale. Still going to keep it though, of course. Then we have the OG Urban Decay Naked palette. This is one that I will never take out of my collection because it is the first high-end eyeshadow palette I ever bought. It has definitely had some love over the years. Probably not in the past 6 months, but it is still a great eyeshadow palette, so I would never get rid of it, plus the fact I've discontinued it now. Then we have the W7 Delicious palette. This is supposed to be a take on the Anastasia Beverly Hills Modern Renaissance palette. This is one that I actually believe I decluttered in my last eyeshadow palette declutter. So I kept my decluttered palettes to one side and kept looking at it thinking I need to give it a go. Pulled it back out, used it once or twice, and then never touched it again for, what, about a year now? So this one is definitely being decluttered. I have just taken the brush out of it because it is quite a decent brush in there, so this one is going. Then we have the Makeup Revolution Emily Noel The Wants palette. As you can see in the front, this has had some love, and I would say this is probably one of my favourite eyeshadow palettes that I have tried, and it is also one of my most reached for. This is a palette that I do get inspiration when I open it. It doesn't take long for me to think of what kind of look I want. I love the colour story in here, I love the array of shades. I also quite like the fair mix between the shimmer shades and the mattes. There is a matte to kind of accompany every shimmer shade. They all work really well together. Quality wise, I do need to wear an eyeshadow primer with them for them to last all day, but that's not an issue. Provided you do wear a primer, I do get a good 8-10 hours wear out of them, but definitely would not be without this eyeshadow palette. Sometimes I wish it was a little bit smaller, but then you obviously wouldn't have the pan size that you have, but definitely love this palette so much, so would not be getting rid of this one. Next we have the BH Cosmetics Royal Affair palette. This is another one that I really enjoy the quality of. I do really like the BH Cosmetics formula. There is a nice colour story in here. Not as inspiring as some of the palettes that I've got, and I do tend to go for the same looks when I go into this palette. I tend to apply either this pink or this kind of burnt orange shade into my crease. I then darken it up with usually one of these two, and then I will put some kind of shimmer from this row or that one there all over the lid. But not necessarily a bad thing that I have go-to looks in this palette. I really like the quality. I think they're really reasonably priced and would definitely purchase more from BH in the future. So definitely keeping this one. I think I'll say the word definitely too much. Then there is this Colourpop Ooh La La palette. This is one of their £9 palettes, and I actually found the formula different in this than to the £12 palette, and I much prefer the formula in the £12 palette. I was so disappointed and underwhelmed by this eyeshadow palette. This shade over here is so crumbly and just goes absolutely everywhere, which is a shame because it is a really nice shade. This gold shade down here is really nice and in my opinion probably one of the best shades in the palette. This pink up here, Poodle, is also really nice, but other than that the shades are just okay. The quality of them is just okay. They don't blend the best, they do require quite a bit of wear. When you apply either of these colours you probably wouldn't be able to tell much difference on the eye. So I don't enjoy using it, I don't enjoy reaching for it, but I haven't had it that long, so I really don't know what to do with it. I'm going to stick this in the maybe pile for now because I don't think I've ever decluttered an eyeshadow palette this quick, but I just don't know when I'm going to reach for it. I'd have to force myself to reach for it. So what I might do is stick it in my everyday makeup drawer, although I can't really create everyday looks from it. I'll stick it in the maybe pile for now and then I'll have a think. Next is another Wet n Wild eyeshadow palette, and this is the Poster Child. This is one that I kind of just got on a whim in a outlet mall. I think I paid £1 for it, and even though I knew I was never going to wear the shades, I still just paid £1 for it because I thought, oh, I might use these three here, but I haven't even used that. Every time I look at the palette, the first thing I see is these really bright shades here. Don't reach for them on a regular basis, so I don't end up reaching for this palette. I don't find the quality in this one is as good as the Comfort Zone palette. I do find this is a hell of a lot more patchier, and these shades here aren't pigmented enough to justify keeping the palette, so I'm going to get rid of this one. Next we have the Jaclyn Hill by Morphe palette. This is one that has always just been a bit kind of meh for me, but I did have this in my everyday makeup drawer, I believe it was January, and I ended up forcing myself to use it when it came around to February and I took it out. If I'm honest, I did actually miss this palette, so I have now kind of got a little soft spot for it. It doesn't intimidate me as much as it first did. I can look at it and easily think of a look, which I think was my main issue with it. I just found it was too much, too many shades that were kind of similar to each other, but just slightly, ever so slightly darker variants of it. But I do kind of see it with different eyes now, if that makes sense. So happy to say that I now do really like this palette and glad I have it in my collection. So I'm definitely going to keep this one. Then we have the Makeup Revolution version of the Too Faced chocolate bar. Still keeps the sheet in, which is really annoying with the names on. I've only used this a few times and I did actually purchase this on the basis of doing a review between, or a comparison even, between this and the Too Faced chocolate bar one, but just never got round to doing it. With some of the shades, I do prefer the formula of them in this one to the actual Too Faced chocolate bar, but I don't need both of them in my collection, and if I'm determined to try and get more money's worth out of the Too Faced one, then I probably just need to get rid of this one, which is a shame because it hasn't been used an awful lot. Then we have a couple more dupe Makeup Revolution palettes. This first one is a dupe of the Naked one, and it is the Redemption Iconic One palette. Again, I bought this to do a comparison between this and the original Naked, but just never got round to doing it. I don't find this is as good as the Urban Decay one. I find the shades muddy together quite a lot and also aren't very pigmented and do require quite a bit of work. I don't think I'm ever going to reach for this over the original Naked palette, so I'm going to get rid of this one. And this is supposed to be a dupe for the Naked 3 because it is the Iconic 3. Really nice shades in this, but again, I don't think the quality is there, which is a shame because they are really nice shades, they're really nice rose gold shades. It would be a nice everyday palette, and I think if it didn't have so many other palettes in my collection, this would be one I would probably reach for quite frequently, but it just doesn't get the love that it deserves, which I say is a shame because I think there are some shades in here that I haven't even touched. There were just a few that I've used a couple of times I've tried it, so I'm going to get rid of this one. Next we have Wet n Wild, and this is the Petalette palette. This is in the newer formula where they turned their trios into quads, and I bought this as a way to test out whether I liked more purpley pink tone eyeshadow palettes. I think I bought this when I was considering the Huda Beauty and couldn't decide between the green and the purple, and based on my opinion of this I probably shouldn't have bought the purple, but I didn't let it put me off. I just didn't like the quality of this at all. I just didn't find that the shades worked very well. This purple down here was really patchy. This pearlescent pink here barely showed up on the lid no matter how I applied it. The transition shade was okay, but not very pigmented, and this brown bone shade didn't even show up on me, so I'm definitely going to be getting rid of this one. And then last but not least, we have the Balm Meet Matchmaker. This is another one that is one of my favourite eyeshadow palettes. I really like the setup of this, that it comes in the colour tone duos. So this is one that I can kind of reach for when I don't have the brain capacity to think of a look. I can literally just flip it open, stick one of the duos on, and I'm done. You can obviously mix and match across all the shades. The Shivaran is probably my favourite duo in here, but I do really like this palette. Love the quality of it, love the pigmentation, and find that they blend really easily. I don't reach for the green shades in here as much because I think I prefer the green shades in the Emily Noel palette, so we'll definitely be keeping that. Back to the one and only palette in my maybe pile. I think I need to give it another chance because I do like the Colourpop formula, or doing the £12 palette anyway. So I think I definitely need to stick this in my everyday makeup drawer for March. That's the only way I'm going to give it a fair shot, and then decide whether I want to keep it or not, or declutter it at the end of March. So here is my declutter pile. It's not the biggest, but I feel better that I am getting rid of, I think, all of my singles, because I just don't reach for them, and now I can at least not feel guilty that they're permanently sitting in the pile not getting used. So we're getting rid of 9 eyeshadow palettes and 8 singles. And then this is the pile that I'm keeping, so I am keeping 20. So effectively I'm getting rid of nearly a third of my palette collection. Obviously we've got the singles as well, but I'm not going to count them as part of the palettes that I'm getting rid of. So I feel better having got rid of a third, and 20 I know is still an awful lot, but fingers crossed it's a bit more manageable. But when I think about it, these 2 palettes are kind of on the chopping block, so that would be another 2 down in the collection. But still, I know it is an awful lot of eyeshadows. I really don't need to buy any more, but the Naked Cherry palette is talking to me, and it's currently on sale. I really don't know what to do, because I'm looking at this, I desperately don't need it, but I really, really want it. So that is it for my eyeshadow palette declutter. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you're not already. Thanks.